We are live, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? How y'all doing? This is your brother, Proper Perspective. Shout out to everybody. Peace to Off Guard who jumped up into the chat room. What's going on, bruh? Peace to all the positive people in the universe. Now, I'm going to try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. Peace to all the positive people in the universe. Now, I'm going to try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. Peace to all the positive people in the universe. I'm gonna try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. We got to have peace to all the positive people in the universe. I'm gonna try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. We got to have peace to all the positive people in the universe. I'm gonna try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. We got to have peace to all the positive people in the universe. Peace to Mr. K. Try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. We got to have peace to all the positive people in the universe. Peace to Mr. K. Try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. We got to have peace to all the positive people in the universe. Peace to Mr. K. Try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. We got to have peace to all the positive people in the universe. Peace to Mr. K. Try to give it a couple minutes to see if anybody else joins. Unmute the mic. What's going on, everybody? Now we have finally finished all of the echo effects. So peace to Mr. K, peace to Off Guard. Let me see. Somebody just texted me. Just fixed it. So peace to all the positive people in the universe. What's good, Richmond, Virginia? Big up VA and Hotep to the Pan-African Black world. And everybody else that knows that we need to put puzzle pieces together and look beyond the smoke and mirrors in order to see the big picture. So tonight we're doing a little something different. And it might not take long. Because some might even say this show isn't even necessary. But on my last show, or one of my last shows, I told people that I was skipping certain talking points, certain statements that were being made in the chat room. Now I try to put them on the screen. And I try to engage and air out the ideas. But there were a couple of brothers that were in the chat, and let's just say it's the heart of what we're doing tonight. So there were certain talking points that were extremely off topic. And I said specifically, and I made a post after that on my community page. And I said, give me back, write down the best version of the statement or the argument you were trying to make, and I will address it later. So that's what we're doing. Now, before we get started, I want to at least make a couple of parenthetical statements, disclaimers, if you will. Because I want to ask a question. Because since the whole thing played out, and I'm not new to the idea, but I really had to take a seat and really assess, like, are these brothers for real? And I don't mean, well, literally what I mean is, or are they bots? Like, are they actual human beings making all of these weird statements? Or are they just usernames created by some, what do they call it? Bot farm stationed somewhere in Russia or in the Ukraine somewhere. Just usernames repeating talking points. If you hear this word, say that. Because I got receipts for the claims that was being made. Now, I'm not going to say I got every receipt. I'm not going to say I'm hitting every claim. I'm trying to cover at least the major ones. I'm hoping that, so for instance, if they weren't bots and they were honestly trying to dialogue, then hopefully they'll come on back in. I don't want to believe that this many Black people, this many African Americans, whether you call yourself African American or not, could be this detached from basic facts. But we're going to find out tonight. I'm going to go through some of those claims from the chat. I'm going to try my best to show you the evidence and let the audience make a determination. Are these individuals, are they real people, or are they bots just being programmed to repeat certain talking points? Shout out, yes indeed. And Mr. K says, I'm definitely suspicious of these faceless FBA accounts. The only reason that I have to hold a little bit of I'm holding the suspicion. The only reason I can't destroy the suspicion is because I have in other conversations, in other parts of social media, of the social media universe, I have had face-to-face conversations. So I'm like, I know that it's real, but the way in which they dance into the screen, the way in which they come into chat rooms, it's awfully odd. Now, one of the claims, so let's just go ahead and get started with this, because one of the claims that was being made, let's see if I can get my mood music on again. One of the claims that was being made, and the guy that was doing it, was making the claim, said it over and over again. It's like he was hyper fixated on Joy Reid now. And I said in during the conversation, I said, look, I'm not an expert on what Joy Reid has or has not done. But since he was so convinced, I felt it necessary. Let me go look up Joy Reid. But one of the comments that was made, Joy Reid never talks about reparations. Joy Reid doesn't give any real support to FBAs. And so, okay, I said, let me go, Y'all know how we do. We Google it. Nowadays, we Google it. We AI it. Whatever. Now here's the thing. It's one of the easiest claims to verify. It takes 30 seconds to Google Joy Reid reparations, and boom, what comes up? So now before I make the other statements, so either you didn't bother to check, or you're a bot. Repeat, or you're what did Biggie Smalls used to call them? He said, I ain't gonna say the word, but I love them brainless. Either you're a brainless brother who's simply just on autopilot repeating what you heard. So as we go and look at the facts, look at the record, would you be surprised to find out? Would you be shocked to find out that he was dead wrong? Mr. K says, the FBAs grew up on Jerry Springer, hence why they argue their talking points and never debate. That's quite insightful. That's quite insightful. I don't disagree with that at all. So we looked up Joy Reid, and wouldn't you know, Joy Reid has publicly addressed reparations. The brother said never. She has criticized symbolic gestures used in place of substantive ideas. Go figure. Now, if I can pull this up, I'm gonna try to share this to the screen. I don't know if it's gonna work. Sometimes this stuff goes haywire. So let's see. All right, now, so let me see if we can get this onto the screen. It is pulling up. Where is there we go. So we have this. Now, this is just one example. Joy Reid, Obama's 2 terms are not reparations. So just off top, the brother was saying Joy Reid don't speak for us. She don't talk about reparations. She don't care about reparations. And we got this video. Now, in this video, Reid explains why. Because at the time, there were people of the Republican Party especially saying things like, your reparations is the fact that you got a black president. Your reparations is the fact that you got a Juneteenth holiday. And so Joy Reid said, hold up. And she explains why 2 presidential terms and Juneteenth are nowhere near sufficient, are not reparations, are not reparative justice, And she emphasized the historical injustice of how black people literally built the country. Now, I'm not even going to necessarily play the video. Let me see if I can get some sound.
And to find out that literally Barack Obama's 2 terms as president are your reparations, and Juneteenth, which you already celebrated anyway, is your reparations, and yet you built this country. You literally physically built this country, and yet the attitude toward you from a lot of your peers and your fellow citizens is just shut up and be grateful. And it's infuriating.
Now, right then and there, and it's infuriating. She is speaking to the reparations issue. She is clearly saying that the way in which people treat this cause is infuriating. Now, I don't know what an FBA person, and I can't remember the brother's name. I think it was Newbie something, but I mean, I can't remember his name. But again, the idea that Joy Reid doesn't speak for, doesn't speak about, doesn't care about, and they got receipts all over the internet. Google gave it to me in 3 seconds, where she's talking about it, and not just talking about it. Like, she's clearly on the side of people who believe in reparations. Now, let it be known, not all African Americans believe in reparations. So here's the thing. You want to create a wedge. This is the thing. The FBA crowd, the ADOS crowd, the acronym squad, they want to create this wedge between the group of African Americans and the group of quote unquote immigrant blacks by saying, well, the immigrant blacks don't support reparations. And they say Joy Reid is one of the biggest ones that does it. Proof. She supports it. She's in favor of it. She believes that it is something that is important, and she believes that it is something that mainstream society is trying to ignore and sweep under the rug. But more importantly, if you want, so here's the thing. If you are honestly in favor of reparations, if you feel the need to create a wedge between various factions of black populations, wouldn't it make more sense to create a wedge between any and all blacks who support reparations and any and all blacks who don't support reparations? You need to be speaking down on Clarence Thomas. You need to be speaking down on Candace Owens, Clandis Owens, Kundis Owens, because they don't believe in reparations. You need to be bigging up Joy Reid because she supports. Now, I'll give you a second example. Well, I will make the attempt to give you a second example. Like I said, I got to couch my own terms because technology keeps trying to make a liar out of me. So let me see if this one is going to work. The Big Payback. Now, what is The Big Payback, ladies and gentlemen? It's a documentary that traces local reparations implementation and national reparations politics and situates the HR 40 legislation in that context. So why am I talking about this? Would you be surprised to know Joy Reid is associated personally with this project, this documentary about the push for reparations in Evanston, Illinois. So, but the brother came into the chat room, into the classroom. Y'all heard about the slip up, and said Joy Reid never supports reparations. It's demonstrably false. She has spoken critically about the lack of reparations, the legislation, about reparative justice, the overall move. She's connected with the documentary that explores reparations work and the National Reparations Bill, not just in sound bites. So again, she's already doing the work that you say she's not. Are you ill-informed? Are you misinformed? Or are you a bot? You either didn't check anything, or you don't care about facts. Now, it would make me lean towards maybe it's just a bot. And Mr. K, they love to argue. Hence why they put words in people's mouths just to give them an excuse to argue. They straw man everything. Just like not all African Americans care about reparations. Exactly. And that's the point. If you're, again, if you care about reparations, then you don't create enemies amongst people who agree with you. Let me say that again. If you care about reparations, then you don't create enemies, or you don't hate on, you don't castigate, you don't denigrate people who agree with you, who would side with you. If you care about reparations, then you aim all your ire, you aim all your contempt and your disdain towards the people who actively work against it. And that ain't Joy Reid. So bot check, ladies and gentlemen. Now, another claim that he made. Shout out to the boogeyman for coming through. Another claim that he made. No one is actually supporting reparations bills like HR 40. That's what he said. No one. And he added with great emphasis, especially not the black immigrant representatives. So, we go to Google. We ask Google to verify. Are there any black immigrant representatives who are in support of? And Google says, my young man, dear chap, Congress.gov is a public website. You can see who sponsors the bills. You can see who co-sponsors the bills. It's literally public record. So if you're saying no one supports HR 40, you either didn't look, or you're not a real person. You're incapable of looking. So let's check the facts. Throw this one onto the screen, why don't you? At least to show you that it's there. Congress.gov. Look, it's not a bot website, it's a real website. It shows HR 40's current status with, unless something changed from this morning when I pulled it up, 96 co-sponsors in the 119th Congress. Now, its primary sponsor is Representative Ayanna Pressley. Now, Ayanna Pressley is listed as an African-American politician, the first black woman to represent Massachusetts in Congress, and has publicly discussed her diagnosis. Well, that's other stuff about her hair issues. Let me see. Let me ask Google, is she FBA black or immigrant black? An African American born in Chicago and identifies with the African American experience, making her Black American, often called FBA or first generation Black American in the U.S. Not an immigrant or first generation Black American from an immigrant family. She represents the history of Black Americans in the U.S. Okay, so again, why am I bringing this up? Because the bots, the FBA crowd, the acronyms like to throw shade. They like to lie. Now the brother said there's no. Okay, this isn't an example of an immigrant black, but I'm gonna get there because the brother said there's no immigrant blacks that support the bill. Now Ayanna Pressley supports the bill. She sponsored the bill. There's 96 other co-sponsors to the bill. And if I remember correctly, I believe Ilhan Omar. Let's see. Ilhan Omar has been a co-sponsor of the bill in multiple sessions. So once again, now I'm not gonna go so deep down the rabbit hole as to pull up every last single immigrant black. But again, HR 40 is the only national legislation that's on the record about reparations. It's supported by immigrant blacks. But the brother comes online, the brother jumps in the chat rooms and said, none of them. So you can go to these pages. You can go to congress.gov and you can look at the HR 40 Commission to Study and Develop Reparations. Again, and I've covered this. Now, if you have a problem with HR 40, that's something worthy of being discussed. And I would ride with you. I'd ride with you if you said, my problem with HR 40 is it's taking too long to get passed. I'll be like, okay, now I'm with you there. But that has nothing to do with Black Americans or immigrant Black Americans. That has something to do with the nature of the rules in the House and in the Senate. It has something to do with who sits on the chairs, who sits as the chairs on the committees. Now you go do a deep dive and you find out one of the reasons Congressman Conyers could never get it onto the floor, because Conyers kept reintroducing it for like 40 years. And it would never come up to a vote because the Republicans would always say, the Republicans always figured out a way to be the head of the committee that allows legislation to the floor. Just because, like, I could write legislation. You could write legislation. We all could write legislation. We could pay lobbyists to write legislation. We could contact our congressmen and our senators and demand that they write legislation. That's great. That's what civic responsibility is. But just because it's written doesn't mean it gets anywhere. And that has nothing to do with whether or not you're African American, you're Ghanaian American, you're Eritrean American. That has something to do with the rules of the House. And the rules of the House say no legislation goes to the floor for a vote without certain committees saying we're going to take this one up. Now, the committees that are responsible for taking the legislation off the table or out of the notebook and walking it out onto the floor, like if you've ever watched C-SPAN, C-SPAN will show you they bring the paperwork, they bring the legislation to the floor, they read it aloud, and then the elected representatives vote on it. Well, that's gatekeeping. And there is a committee that says, yes, you get to go out there and get voted on. No, you do not. Ain't an African American, whether they were in favor or against it, had that position. Ain't an immigrant Black American, whether they were in favor or against it, had that position. That position has always been held by a white person. 9 times out of 10 has been held by a Republican, but I'm not saying the Democrats don't have a dirty hand in the delay game. But what I'm saying is immigrant Blacks don't have a hand in it, and African Americans, even those who don't believe in it, don't have a hand in it. So you are misappropriating your anger. You need to do better. You need to think more. You need to research more, because you're just flat out dead wrong. Mr. K says there's pseudo reparations who are being used as a front to suppress the real deal reparations campaigns in the streets, the campuses, the institutions, the boardrooms, and the courts collectively. This is absolutely true. The name of the game, especially in this country, the name of the game is loud distraction. If we can loudly distract you from scoring, from getting the bag, then our job is done. Now, this is why I say sometimes it's hard for me to believe that these are real, true African-American humans. Because if you say you're that interested in reparations, you wouldn't really be acting this way. So when you claim that no one in Congress is pushing for reparations, that's just simply wrong. H.R. 40 is an active bill with a wide group of Democratic representatives sponsoring and co-sponsoring. It is a formal legislative effort to study reparations and recommend remedies. Now, I've covered this again. I've spoken on this channel about how I want them to move away from the study. I'd rather them gather all of the studies that have already been done and move directly into, whoa, this is a problem, we got to fix it. But again, that's another issue. And that's not what these bot people are talking about. They're just coming up with stupid, weird, disingenuous lies. Now, the real bill has been introduced multiple times. So again, is it what they used to say way back in the day? Is it real or is it Memorex? Now I'm gonna move into the next section. Another claim. Let me see before I hit that next claim. Let's see, Mr. K. What pisses me makes me laugh at the same time is how the FBA and the ADOS even demand reparations from these African governments when these African nation states, let alone governments, didn't exist. I tell you, the worst part about it is not only when they make these ridiculous claims, but when you see people who clearly have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, they clearly have the age, they clearly have the professional background to bring clarity to these situations, and they run with it. That's how you know it's a grift, it's a con, it's misdirection, it's misinformation. Because I've seen FBA advocate lawyers try to pick this game up and run. Why? Because they want more clicks, because they want more views, and negativity sells. The same way back in the day that hip hop used to say sex sells. KRS One said sex and violence. So they don't care. There's no integrity. Well, if I say, we're gonna sue the governments of Africa, all the negative minded, all of the backwards thinking people come out cheering. You might as well go to a Klan rally. You'd fit in more. Now the boogeyman says they sold out. We know what it is. Even from Django. Live in living color. So I'm gonna move on. Let me see. I'm gonna move on. I may try to shorten this. Now here's one. Another claim that was made. Black immigrants speak for Black Americans, but don't speak to Black Americans. Now, I'm like, yo. My first instinct was like, man, what is you smoking? But let me calm down. They say Black immigrants represent Black Americans in media, but refuse to address Black American issues. They speak for us, but not to us. Okay, so now again, really, all I really need to do is just point back to the Joy Reid example, because you were, at least during that session, everybody was pointing at Joy Reid as the quintessential example of the problem with the Black immigrant population within the Black community. And I just showed you clips of her speaking for Black Americans. Now you want to say she doesn't speak to Black Americans, but I'm like, now, I mean, she's been on podcasts with other Black Americans, and they've spoken in general, and they've spoken about reparations, and they've spoken about the problems and the ills and the solutions of the Black community. So again, Are you willfully misinformed? Are you shamefully ignorant or willfully ignorant? Now, I will say this. So let me say it this way. Hold on. Indeed, yes, they are shock jock content creators, hence that want to be Howard Stern. And it's so funny because I have a certain amount of, at least at one point, I had a certain amount of respect for shock jock types. But when the shock jock there's a level, there's a line. Once you go beyond a certain realm and the preference and reference, it's like, okay, it's just like being a contrarian. You can be a contrarian to get a conversation started. But if you just go hold and stick to your guns of contrarianism just for the sake of being a contrarian, it's like, all right, pack them up. So again, the claim, and the way the brother puts it down, it sounds sophisticated, but it's based on a fundamental confusion. It conflates media employment with political representation. So either you don't understand how media works, or you're a bot designed to create confusion. Now let me break it down. Facts with receipts, because that's where everything, it's facts over feelings. Which reminds me of another topic that will be coming up later this week. The claim conflates media employment with political representation, and it assumes a monolithic agenda where none exists. Now you have media industry demographics. Newsrooms remain predominantly white. The idea that black immigrants have taken over media representation doesn't match with industry-wide employment data. You have corporate media structure. Media companies are controlled by corporate ownership structures that determine editorial priorities, not individual on-air personalities. And who sets these agendas? Research shows media consolidation means fewer companies control more outlets, limiting what topics receive coverage regardless of who delivers the news. Now, one of the brothers in the chat tried to, I don't know if it was the same one, but they tried to extend this whole critique and started naming others. So let me just say, Joy Reid, Roland Martin, Mark Lamont Hill, these are employees. They're not owners. They don't set the corporate agenda. So blaming media personalities for institutional failures is misdirected anger. If MSNBC, CNN, all of whom have been slowly but surely firing their black personnel, be they foundational black African Americans, or immigrant black African Americans, they're all being let go. So whether it's MSNBC, CNN, or any other network, they're not even trying to center black American policy issues. That's a failure of corporate media structure. That's not proof that black immigrants are conspiring against black Americans. If that were the case, then they only would have fired the black Americans. But everybody's getting let go as soon as you say something that they don't like. So the Boogeyman 32 says, you either riding for black folks or you're not. Raccoonery has nothing to do with ethnicity. Jesse Lee Patterson is the biggest tap dancer on earth. Would you rather him represent black folks? Thank you, my brother. Because that's the thing. Again, if you were really, we were trying to figure out, are they real humans or are they bots? Now, again, I know that they are some real humans claiming this acronym stuff. But if you was really about that work, if you was really about that life, then you would spend 90% of your time talking about Jesse Lee Peterson, not Joy Reid. Let's see. Some of these folks just confused. They are also confused. That's a good one. So now I'm gonna go I may jump around a little bit. Let me see. Where we at? Okay. All black, let me see, another claim that they made. All black podcasters are immigrants. Again, demonstrably false. But this is what the brother said. He said it's not only Joy Reid, it's all black podcasts, and all blacks in the podcast arena are immigrants. Research their lineage. Now this I know, like, it still might be a bot, but I know where he got this one from. Because I've heard their leader, I should start calling them the Shiites. We need to just dispense with the whole FBA acronym. Just call them the Shiites. Because that's what they're doing. And this is where you really start to wonder, this got to be a joke. Because the claim is so easy to disprove. No real person would make this claim. Now, they specifically named Roland Martin, Mark Lamont Hill as black immigrants. So let's research their lineage, since you told me to do that. Now, Mark Lamont Hill was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to black American parents. So he ain't an immigrant. Roland Martin was born in Houston, Texas, to a black American family. So he's not an immigrant. You got other prominent black American media figures and podcasters, since that's where he was trying to put his thing. Charlemagne the God, South Carolina. Angela Rye, Seattle. Jamel Hill, Detroit. Bomani Jones, Houston. Melissa Harris Perry, Seattle. Michael Eric Dyson, Detroit. Tavis Smiley from Mississippi. Dr. Cornell West, Oklahoma. Bakari Sellers, South Carolina. Simone Sanders, Nebraska. Van Jones, Tennessee. April Ryan, Baltimore. Look, the list goes on and on. These are very big names with huge platforms. They're all African American. Whether you like them or not, you can say, I don't like them. Cool. You can't say there are no African American podcasters. You are infantile in your ignorance. And the Boogeyman says, I'd like to point out that Jesse Lee Peterson is not an immigrant. I need to come up with a nice long list of the sellout coons. Jesse Lee Peterson, Clarence Thomas, Candace Owens. I usually just use those two as my quintessential examples. Dr. Ben Carson. So the brother told me to research the lineage. I did. Y'all saw the receipts. Y'all heard the receipts. Now, again, I refuse to believe that a real black person who cares this much about an issue didn't take 10 seconds to go Google. But hey. Now, another one that I think, this one may be even more important because it feeds into some other narratives that are being promoted. Because at one point he said black Americans always vote Democratic and immigrants don't. Now that, again, sometimes they'll say something and it may sound like that could be true. And it has the veneer of truth. But let's check. Because this claim tries to create a division where none exists. So either you don't know the actual voting data, which is usually what it always turns out to be. You just don't know. Or you're a bot, or you're a human doing the job of a bot to create black versus immigrant conflict. Now, when we check the numbers, African Americans historically and currently support Democratic candidates in overwhelming numbers. Okay, we all know that. But here's what's interesting. Black voters remain one of the strongest Democratic Party identifiers of any group in the U.S. Immigrant voters, their voting patterns, including foreign-born voters, have historically leaned Democratic. Now, they vary by subgroup and context, but the overwhelming majority of immigrant black voters vote Democrat. So even on that, and you can easily say that's a surface issue, whether you say it's surface or deep in the bowels. If most black immigrants vote Democrat and most black Americans vote Democrat, then we in the same boat. Both black immigrants and immigrants broadly support the Democratic candidates. Tell me this. I do believe there are more foundational. No. That's not true. The black Republicans. I should have looked that one up. How many the black Republicans, and I'm only thinking of two off the top of my head, Byron Donalds and Tim Scott. Now, I do believe Tim Scott is a good old South Carolina born brother, black American. And he typically falls on the outside of what of the issues when it comes to black politics. And Byron Donalds is pretty much known to be a bit of a sellout. So here we go. Okay, here comes the crowd. Mark Lamont Hill said in FD signifier that he was Jamaican and Croatian. Okay, well, I'm not up on FD signifier. So you'll have to give me a link. Roland Martin is third generation Congolese. I've already covered Joy Reid. If you have a link for any of your evidence, I will entertain it, but I'm not gonna go by your word. Shout out to the boogeyman. I almost forgot about good old Tim Scott. Again, Troy Body 6662. Again, if you got links, send them to me. But I'm not gonna take your word for it, because thus far, all of the stuff that you sent last time, or you and the other brother sent last time, have been thoroughly debunked. But again, you got links, send them to me. I don't mind standing corrected. Yeah, Mr. K says the anti-intellectualism we are seeing now is the evolution of the anti-hero that was spawned in 90s pop culture. That's an astute statement. Then explain why Hispanics voted for Trump. Give me the numbers. Can you explain why black people voted for Trump? Troy Body. Explain why Hispanics voted for Trump. Troy Body. Why did black people vote for Trump? Let me see if we can get down to some of the other. Yeah, I'm not gonna put him in the timeout, but I'm not going again. If you have links, send me links. Let me see. What was some of the other claims that was made? Now, one brother said black immigrants block reparations in California and Atlanta. And I'm like, Gavin Newsom is now a black immigrant? Like, it's clearly been reported how Gavin Newsom said, no, not the black immigrants. And I'm not too sure. There is some work in Atlanta. I found evidence of some work in Atlanta. Let me see if I can pull that one onto the screen. The Fulton County Task Force, which includes Atlanta, was extended for 2 more years in November. They are currently reviewing a harm report detailing the impact of slavery and Jim Crow on local black residents. So now they may not have gotten to, a full-scale reparations committee or whatnot, but they're still doing work. So I don't see that as being blocked. Atlanta City Reparations Commission. As of October 2025, the Atlanta City Council appointed members to a new reparations study commission to identify how the city can address long-standing racial disparities. The key obstacles. The primary limitation is not a specific opposition group, but rather the Georgia law inhibits direct cash payments. So Georgia already got something on the book that says, I don't care what y'all do, but nobody gets $1. Now you're going to have to figure out how to get around that law before you figure out how to give $1. That ain't got nothing to do with a black immigrant group. Hell, that ain't got nothing to do with whites that don't want it to be passed anyhow. Let me see. So shout out to Kaleem Shabazz. Anti-hero. Yes, that is the symbolism of America. The good, the bad, and the ugly. True indeed. True indeed. That is the symbol. Kaleem Shabazz says no one should vote for Trump. He is the Antichrist. Hey, you know, I'm not that quite religious, but I feel the sentiment. And again, like, the idea here is the acronym folk like to throw out accusations. Troy Body, I use Google. Troy Body, I use Google. I didn't find any other garbage that you say. Now again, okay, let me slow down. Let me calm down. Let me not call it garbage. I just didn't find the research that you say. Now, you can send me your research. Like I'm showing on the screen, I'm sitting on Google, pulling up stuff from Google. What you say doesn't come up. So now again, back to this claim about California and Atlanta. The California Reparations Task Force is still working. Gavin Newsom threw the roadblock, and they're working to circumvent Gavin Newsom's roadblock. Let me see. Mr. K says to Kaleem Shabazz, I found it very interesting in retrospect that we saw the rise of the anti-hero in the 90s after 1991 when the Cold War was over and America claimed victory. I see where you're going with that. Troy Body says, I have never sent you anything. I can't link from my phone. Okay. I didn't say that you did send me something, but if you can't link from your phone, okay. Well, I mean, you can send me an email later on. Like I said, this is one of the standing topics that I cover on this show. So you can send me an email later on and we can discuss what it is. And I'll even have you on the show if you want to carry it that way. But like I said, throwing out random statements as if they are fact, no, not doing that. So the California Reparations Task Force, the final report was unanimously approved by the task force. Members included Camilla Moore, Black American descendant of enslaved people; Amos Brown, Black American civil rights veteran; Lisa Holder, Black American attorney; Don Tamaki, Japanese American reparations advocate from Japanese internment camps. That's all that's there. No evidence exists that a black immigrant politically blocked the recommendation. Now, what is true, implementation bills like AB 3089, which would create a reparations agency, is still pending. Governor Newsom has been cautious. Now, that's, to put it mildly, cautious about endorsing cash payments. This is a political budgetary issue in one respect, but it ain't got nothing to do with immigrant heritage. Altogether, of the 14 reparation bills that made it to Newsom's desk in 2024, he signed 9 and vetoed 5. None of the signed bills included direct cash payments. That's where the issue is. But that's Gavin Newsom. Last time I checked, he ain't got enough melanin to be confused with an immigrant black or FBA black. So let me see. You haven't studied anything. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm showing you my research. And when we ask for yours, I can't link from my phone. Okay. Mr. K, if he sends anything, it will be in AI. Look, I wouldn't even be mad if he sent something from AI. Because you can fact check AI just like you fact check Google. He ain't sending nothing. He already tapped out. I can't send links from the phone. Now in Atlanta, as I showed with what came up in Google, since he said you need to use Google and you'll find it. Google said there's no major Atlanta specific reparations initiative that has been blocked by Black immigrants. Now Google said maybe there's some possible confusion. Evanston, Illinois was the first city to implement reparations, but the key word is implement, which means it wasn't blocked. Atlanta City Council has discussed reparations, but Atlanta City Council has not passed a comprehensive program. And I just showed you where Google said, Georgia law says, we don't care what you pass. Ain't no dollars coming out the pockets. So passed or blocked. Georgia got a block on reparations until you get rid of that law. And you ain't gonna get rid of that law without votes. There's no evidence that Atlanta City Council discussions were blocked by Black immigrants. City Council demographics. Atlanta City Council is predominantly Black American. The claim that Black immigrants blocked anything here doesn't match the political reality. And that came from Google. So again, you know, repeating the nonsense. So I may not go that much further in outlining all of the complaints, all of the talking points, because time, like I'm up to 8. I've covered 8 talking points. I have found 0 truth out of all the 8. I think in total I had 18 talking points. And so now in the 18 that I covered or in the 18 that I researched and sort of like prepared for the show, I found 0 truth in any of them. Now I've covered 8 live here, found 0 evidence, not even smoke from a smoking gun. And so I'm like, well, I don't necessarily think that I need to go even any further with it. I can. But again, even the brother that comes into the chat room and says, you know, the stuff that he's saying. So now he's accusing me of gaslighting because he's, okay, let's say it this way. And I'm going to put you on the screen, bro. Show me that you're not gaslighting us. Google is Joy Reid an immigrant. I never said Joy Reid was not of immigrant descent. Show me that you comprehend English. Show me or admit that you came in late and didn't hear at the beginning. Joy Reid being of immigrant background has no bearing on the conversation, at least from the standpoint of this, because the comments that were made the night before were about Joy Reid not speaking up for, not speaking about reparations. So now once we've shown and proved that she's done a documentary, that there's video clips where she says anybody that thinks Obama being elected 2 times as reparations is out of their mind and thinking like that is infuriating. Well, that kills your argument about Joy Reid not speaking in favor of an issue that is so important to the African American community. And what does the FBA person do? Either A, I wasn't here for that, or B, she's an immigrant. So what? So what? Bruh, first off, I don't have a platform that's big enough where Tariq Nasheed would give one iota of an ounce of care to sit down and talk with me. That's one. This will, but I will say this will not be cleared up until people wake up about the grift that Tariq Nasheed is doing, about the bamboozling that Tariq Nasheed is doing. Because all you can do is repeat his talking points. And it's not just me. Everybody that takes this information seriously have been on their own channels, whether they be on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Everybody is flouting these talking points. Mr. K says, since you say it can't be cleared up until we sit down with Tariq Nasheed, so you admit Tariq is your leader. You breaking the rules, Jack. Tariq said don't do that. Troy Body, you're funny. You do know that Trump told Google, YouTube, and Facebook to go along with it. You do know. You do know that you sound ridiculous. No, I'm not going to do that one either. I already know why white people are racist. And that is not germane to the conversation. Again, the other tactic that the bots and the disingenuous people use. Once you've shown them that everything that they said is baloney, malarkey, false narrative, talking point spin, what must we do? Like, if they were genuine in their concern, if they were genuine in their conversation, they would say, oh, my bad. Just like I would say, if you show me, well, Mark Lamont Hill is actually an immigrant, I would say, okay, my bad. But no, they can't do that. Now it's goalpost shift. Now all of a sudden Trump controls Google. Well, why were you telling me to use Google then? Why were you telling me to use Google if Trump has already told Google to go along with Trump? And if that's the case, why did Google say ain't been no immigrants blocking reparations? Circular thinking, cognitive dissonance, disingenuousness. Now, the boogeyman says when you sit down with raccoons, you could potentially get rabies. Why waste time and energy talking to Tariq? Hey. Yeah, Troy, you got some you need help, brother. That's all I'm gonna say. So, like I said, you know, one of the other complaints was that Congressional Black Caucus Black immigrants blocked reparations. Now, I already spoke to that earlier. They didn't. The ones that are there support it. Now, Byron Donalds doesn't support reparations. And Byron Donalds didn't join the Congressional Black Caucus. He said it was just too black for him. So like I said, ultimately, all of the claims that the FBA advocates bring up, they're disingenuous, they're dead wrong, they're factually vacant. Let me see. Okay, hold on. So Troy Body said, you said that Joy is American. Okay, newsflash, brother. I know this may hurt your sensibilities. This may hurt your brain. But if you are born in this country, you are an American. That's one. So for that fact alone, Joy Reid, from my research, it says she was born in Brooklyn. Now, okay, I could be wrong. She could have been born outside the country. But you do know America has multiple forms of citizenship. Once you gain one, you're in. So if she was born out the country and she became a naturalized citizen, she is an American, period. Now, in the past, only white people have made this argument. And I made a video about it. You can go check it out. I made a video about how white people try to clarify their new movement is heritage. But are you a heritage American? You can qualify and classify anything you want to, but the so-called Constitution that you say you believe in, that gives you your quote-unquote American status, tells you you can be born here to be an American. You can come here and go through the naturalization process to be an American. They even allow some people to come here, join the military, fight in a war or two, undeclared or not, and then become American. So even if you prove to me that, like you said, well, you said Joy Reid was an American. Yes, I did. I don't qualify the Americanity. Now, if you prove to me that she is not an American, I will stand corrected. But you claim you ain't got no internet to send a link. Again, thank you, the Boogeyman 32. Joy Reid is born and raised in New York, so she's not an immigrant. Like I said, born in Brooklyn. Like, again, so here's when we get to this point. Are you a bot? Are you really just ignorant? And I'm not using ignorant as a jab. I swear to you, I'm not. Ignorant really just means that you don't know. You lack the knowledge and information. So are you really that absent of the knowledge of the definition of an immigrant and of American? Or are you pushing an agenda? Because again, if you're born in America, you're an American. Heritage, ethnicity, those are different things. You don't have to be like the only true American in the corporate government sense are the Europeans who stole it. The only true American in the heritage soil sense are the Native Americans that got pushed off into those reservations. So now whether Troy wants to claim the acronym, I'm not going to force you to claim the acronym. I will say everything coming out your mouth tonight is lock, stock, and barrel with the acronyms. Red flag on your historical illiteracy. Malcolm X was about human rights, not civil rights. And he critiqued the civil rights bill and stressed the civil rights movement to be human rights. That's absolutely 100% true. Now, I may have missed whoever said like the silly statement or whatever. Let me see. Okay, so here we go. Let's run this back down now. Mr. K says, Tariq doesn't do face-to-face in-person sit-downs. Tariq only does live streams to hide behind his keyboard with his camera off. Let's see. Be active. No, yeah, beat active 8075. Shout out. Thanks for joining. Here's his comment. To be FBA, or no, to FBA, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, Louis Farrakhan are descendants of immigrants, and they are the most important leaders of the civil rights movement. FBA don't realize what they're doing, because trying to be so insular and isolationist, they're removing half of our heritage. I'm not going out. Yes, I've thrown out the invite. I'm not going to Tariq Nasheed. I used to be a follower and supporter of Tariq Nasheed until I saw what he was doing. There's no way I'm going back over there to that nut house. Okay. So let me see. What else is going on in the chat? Yeah, you're definitely FBA. We know it's so Kaleem Shabazz says, Kev, we know it's by design, but real adults look for solutions. Okay. Are you ready for change? I'm not sure. I may have missed a couple of comments in between there. Troy says Google can't tell the truth and everything. Again, Troy, do you realize how circular your thinking is? You entered this engagement saying that I haven't done my research. And you said, just Google it. I pull up Google. I show you that on the reparations in Georgia malarkey that you guys were pushing and promoting, Google stands in direct contradiction to you, and now all of a sudden Google can't tell the truth. Okay, so let's see. Troy says, I voted for Obama twice. I voted for Kamala. I voted Jill Stein. I voted Marianne Williamson. Okay. So Colleen Shabazz says, are you ready for change? Human rights is key. Malcolm was ahead of time, and when he came back from Mecca, he still wouldn't let whites in his groups. Okay, factually correct. Troy says, however, our young men are upset with the Democrats for not delivering. We need unity. Okay, finally, Troy, you say something that at least I can agree with. Lots of young men, middle-aged men, old men, lots of us are upset with the Democratic Party for not delivering. That's absolutely 100%. And we do need unity. Now, I don't know how you're going to get to it the way that you're going about it. But at least we agree that we need unity. At least we agree that the Democrats aren't doing enough. I hope that we can agree that the Republicans aren't doing anything. So Beat Active says, Tariq loved the mute or silence button. That's one of the reasons I stopped listening. Means when someone comes with the facts, he will talk over them and mute them, which is why he doesn't do debate out, out his social media accounts, on his social media accounts. Factual assessment. So Troy says the only way to get there is talking to each other and understanding both sides. Okay, Troy is finally starting to make some sense. I appreciate that. Like I said, that's the reason I'm doing this. The reason I'm doing this is, okay, I've said over and over again, you can be mad, you can be upset, you can even be in your feelings about any number of things, but you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the community to come with facts and to come with relevant facts. As soon as you come with relevant facts, dialogue begins. But when you throw out nonsense, when you throw out talking points that don't hold weight, there ain't gonna be no unity. Now, Beat Active says, because outside this platform, he has no power to silence the facts. Beat Active knows very well what he's talking about when it comes to the Nasheed factor. Tariq would the boogeyman says, Tariq would mute you, then call you a tether, and his fans would say, he cooked you. Yeah, no thank you, Troy. Exactly. Hey, while I got everybody here, 6 people watching, when we got this interaction going on, please hit that like button. Please hit the share button. We can keep this thing going. The algorithm got to jump and bounce. So hit the like button, hit the share button, turn on the notification bell. When you hit the notification bell, please make sure that you click all. Don't let them fool you into the personalized thing, because personalized don't mean nothing. They ain't gonna never send you a notification that I'm live. But hit the all button on the notification bell. Let me see what else we got going on in the chat. Yeah, Mr. K says, Beat Active, you're speaking my language on Tariq's antics on his podcast. True indeed. The Boogeyman 32, you can't be FBA and advocate for unity. 2 opposing ideologies. Now, I ain't mad at that. I thoroughly believe, you know, the only way FBA can, I mean, they'd have to clean up their act so much. They'd have to change their ideology so much that they would no longer be recognized as FBA. They would come back into the fold of African American. Because every statement on their website is designed for division and designed for misinformation. Mr. K says, if Tariq had his way, he'd use AI voices of fake Africans and Caribbeans to paint them as hate mongers against Black Americans. Y'all see this comment right here on the screen? That's the one. Let's see. Colleen Shabazz says, we are upset with both parties. This is why Iron Man made the hip hop party. Let's change the direction of the nation. Now, shout out to Kaleem Shabazz. I've been trying to get this. Y'all go hit Kaleem Shabazz Facebook page up and tell him that he need to set up that interview with me about his hip hop party. I've been trying to get him to come onto the show, and he keep giving me the pro-black two-step and shaking it off. But he did get started with a hip hop political party, and I'm here for it. But I can't get him to do the interview. So y'all go check him out and see what he got going on. Troy Body says, if he would just shut up and Google Joy Reid, he will find that yes, she is American, but has African roots. Joy Body, one, if you would just shut up. I didn't come online to shut up. Two, I'll take your word for it. At least you finally fixed some of the idiocy that you keep saying. Now you admit and agree that she's American. Then part of my job is done, because you came here saying that she's not American. So now you realize she is American, but you still feel like you got to hold on to some semblance of your animosity. And you say she has African roots. The stupidity of that statement, my brother. Now, why do I say that's a stupid statement? Every African American, nope, I can't say every. The overwhelming majority of all African Americans have African roots. Now, I will say this, if we start talking science, see, that was like a connotative statement. If we want to go DNA and talk science, all humans on the planet have African roots. So what are you saying? But I ain't trying to go there. That's like the, ooh, I got you type mess. I don't really get in for that. So yes, she is American. Yes, she has African roots. None of that means anything. Her African roots. I believe what Google told me, and I think I read it. I'm not sure if I read it earlier, but I believe what Google told me was her ancestry or her parental heritage was Guyanese and Congolese. And I'm like, okay. But again, roots has nothing to do with your American citizenshipness. So, okay, maybe you might feel like you won this round. He admits she has African roots. Okay, yes, she do. She was born in America. Her parents have roots in the Congo and in Guyana. Now what? He overlooks what makes him look bad. Okay, I probably missed something. Never. Beat active. Now you're talking my language. FBA is a neo-supremacist wannabe ideology. Let's see. What else we got going on in the chat? Troy Body, black immigrants only make up 10% of the population. Okay, Kaleem Shabazz says, give me your emails. Let's make this podcast mean something tomorrow politically. Send them your emails. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Hit the subscribe button. You still on this Joy Reid thing. Look, I just told you, I agree with you that she has non-FBA parental roots. But again, like I said, I'm glad you finally admitted she's an American. You follow the reparations. I follow the reparations. Kaleem Shabazz says this is about networking. Let's show some unity. 100%. The boogeyman says Troy just spamming irrelevant BS. Might as well ask him to Google banana cream pie. The boogeyman, I swear, that's what's up, bro. You own it. Troy Body says Malcolm X is dead. We only have two parties. This doesn't mean that the FBAs are wrong. We need to get them on board. Okay, facts. Malcolm X is dead. Facts. All praises due to that ancestor. May the ancestors be pleased with him. We only have two parties, two legitimate political parties. Facts. Okay. This doesn't mean that the FBAs are wrong. Well, you would need to clarify that, because wrong about what? Like, tonight's entire broadcast, tonight's show was about FBAs being wrong about everything that FBA said when they came online last week. So the FBAs are definitely wrong. They're wrong about what it means to have an ethnogenesis. They're wrong about what it means to have or to not have a leader. They're wrong about what it means to be African. They're wrong about what it means to have or not have solidarity with other groups who aren't within the quote unquote heritage lineage fold. So what are FBAs right about? And how can we get them on board if they refuse to admit they're wrong about whatever it is that they're wrong about? I don't want to say they're wrong about everything. I'll say they're wrong about everything I've heard them talk about. But I would love to get them on board with the African American agenda of solidifying Pan-Africanism, acquiring reparations, and making connections on and off the continent, all throughout the global Black population. We need to be building businesses and helping each other improve infrastructure in Africa, in Haiti, in Jamaica, in Trinidad and Tobago, all the way even in England, in London, in France, where Black people are. We need networks. We don't need, oh, I'm not like y'all. Colleen Shabazz says, Troy need help. Why you think? Troy, you got to go to other Black podcasts and unite. We got to unite. Dems did use Black immigrants to redirect Black issues. That we can unite on. I disagree with that. I don't think Democrats use Black immigrants to redirect Black issues. Now, that might be the talking point. That might be the false narrative that, as you say, drives the success of Nasheed. But a lie is a lie. Whether you can, what is it? That brother Unc from Baltimore, I believe it was him who said, a well-organized lie beats a disorganized truth. Just because Nasheed is having success with a lie that Democrats use Black immigrants to redirect Black issues doesn't mean anything. It's a lie. They haven't. Democrats don't need Black immigrants to redirect Black issues. Democrats have a nice long history of, we just not gonna do it. They don't need an excuse. They've never needed an excuse. They're not using excuses. And again, the Black immigrant politicians have signed on to the reparations bill. None of them can get it off the floor because Republicans are blocking it. They signed on to the George Floyd legislation. I'm talking about the Black immigrants. I'm talking about the Democrats. Tell me, what are the issues? Or because this is what I'm gonna say. If you want me to, you wanna bring us together outside of Nasheed, because I'm not going there. You want to bring us together, then you tell me. I'm gonna keep asking you. Send me a link. You tell me what is the issue. Give me at least one issue. Give me two issues. Give me three issues where the Democrats have used the Black immigrant groups to redirect Black issues. I'll look into it, but I don't know how I'm gonna look into it, because you told me to use Google, and when I use Google, you said you can't trust Google. So I guess I just gotta trust Tariq Nasheed. Is that what you're saying? So let me see. So let me see. That was that one. Okay, so the boogeyman, everything about FBA is wrong. Everything. I can't think of a single thing that makes sense. This is what I'm saying. Like I've had these conversations with like-minded brothers. I've had these conversations with some scholars. We can't find the rightness. We can't find the rightness in the factual statements they make. We may can find honest anger. We may can find honest disgruntlement, but we all feel the disgruntlement. We're all angry. I don't deny that. And we all have a right to be angry. Hip hop line. I got a right to be hostile, man. My people being persecuted. But you don't let your anger let you spew forth ignorant, unfactual garbage. Kaleem Shabazz says Troy is wrong about a lot of things. This is a good, I can't read that word. Props, tell your friends. This is a gold show. Props, tell your friends. I hope I did that justice. So Joy says you have to talk on the point. I talked on the points that I told you I was talking on. You are purposely trying to create deception. Okay, that's a pretty statement. That's a sophisticated statement. It's really it's a deceptive statement in and of itself. But again, I'm here for it. So put it in the chat. What is the point that I'm not talking on? What is the point that I'm purposely trying to create deception on? And we can hash it out. Now, Beat Active says, in a democracy system like the USA, where the majority rules and the minority group kicks rocks, the only way to accomplish equality, property, and justice is for all, or property and justice for all, and having powerful voices in government. Now, I know I read that wrong. I messed it up. Let me run it again. In a democracy system like the USA, the majority rules, and basically the minority has to kick rocks. So the only way to accomplish equality and justice for all is to have a powerful voice in government. Everybody has to work together. I think that's really what he was getting at. In other words, unity is the only way. And if you cannot get that one point, then you are, I don't want to punch down. So everybody, do you see how you just keep talking to avoid Googling her roots? Yes, we all have African roots. But Black Americans can't point out they're stop gaslighting us. Okay. I'm assuming you heard me address that already. Colleen says, Boogeyman, what organizations are you in? Your intelligent unity makes sense. Be a goal setter. Go getter. Troy body, I think it says she's Guyanese. Okay. Like I said, I did address that. So I'm catching up to where the chat is. I addressed the fact that it doesn't say she's Guyanese. It says she's American. It says that her roots, she has parents. One parent is from the Congo. One parent is from Guyana. Now he says, I don't know. I'm not from Africa. So you, again, it's like reveling in your ignorance. Why don't you Google it? You can Google some stuff about Africa too. I love all my African brothers. Well, you can say it, but it has to, the words don't mean nothing if everything else that comes out your mouth don't sound like you got love for it. But I can understand the FBA's argument for identifying with America. I can't. America is our enslaver. And you can understand, okay, I'm sorry. I can't understand it. Because Steven from Django identified with Massa. Beat Active says, without unity of all minority groups, the minority groups will always be conquered, controlled, and powerless. This is like politics 101. If you don't figure out a way to come together, then you're never going to get anything, because you're always going to be the smallest percentage when it comes to votes. Mr. K. Mr. K said, leave them drugs alone, son. Beat Act is without the unity between all the minority groups for the same common purpose of equality and property and justice of all. Divided, all minority will always be powerless. This is true. Kaleem Shabazz, good show. Happy to tell your friends so this could grow. We need measurable goals. We have a common 1%. We have one common adversary. I meant to write equality, prosperity, and justice for all. I got you. The boogeyman. Stephen love being American. What's up, Master? We sit. Prosperity. Gotcha. So again, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, rather than continue to debunk all of the spurious details from the last one, I mean, Troy came in and just kept continuing with the false narrative. So he helped along the way. So like I said, I will say this. I'll give you credit, Troy. Some of the comments that you did, that you said, make sense. You say you have love for Africa. Okay, cool. You say you have love for our African brothers. Okay, cool. But you still say that you understand why FBA wants to delineate. We don't. We don't. No matter how much you talk about Tariq Nasheed, we must understand that there are a lot more FBAs out there, and they are drawing our young to Trump. Now, I agree with that. I agree that a lot of young people, like, the researchers there, they said that Trump got, now it's a good thing to me that no more than 20%, and I think that's the largest estimate, that's the most gracious estimate, 20% of Black Americans voted for Trump. And that he had made, a significant increase from his last 2 runs. So clearly there is a concerted effort by Trump, MAGA, Republicans, and some other secret hidden hands to make inroads in the Black community and gain those votes. I don't disagree with that. That is absolutely true. That is why a lot of people are saying Tariq Nasheed is an agent or acting like one, because the Black community overwhelmingly sees Trump, Republicans, MAGA, and those corporate special interest secret hands as the enemy of Black people. Black people here in America, whether we were naturally born or we moved here or we descend from people who moved here. So the Black people that keep getting drawn into the Trump zeitgeist, that's why we say it's a cult. Cults do this all the time. Now, the only way that you can fight that is by delivering truth and standing on facts. Now, that doesn't mean just because you show the facts that people are going to walk away from the falsehood. People love falsehood. And when you tap into people's anger, when you tap into their psyches and you get them to believe in things, that's the reason white supremacists never back down. Once you start believing in the zeitgeist, it's very hard. It's a drug. It's very addictive. But you're not going to get them to move away from it by agreeing with them. That's what they call enabling. You don't tell a drug user, crack actually ain't that harmful, because you want them to stop. You don't agree with the wrong activity because you want them to stop. You simply have to keep reminding them that's the wrong route. And when they speak unfactually, you correct them. And if that's not going to do the job, then you have to realize some people can't get saved. Some people are born to be wherever it is, whatever path that they take, that's the path for them. Kaleem Shabazz says it is sad so-called Black Americans voted for the enemy. I agree. Troy Body says, yet I was young or being drawn to him. So I'm used to debating against podcasters and their crowds support them. But nevertheless, how young are being drawn to Trump, that means all rights will be removed. Okay, Troy, and I agree. Like I said, I don't make no bones about admitting that I used to support Tariq Nasheed. When he came out with Hidden Colors, I was a fan. Now, that's not to say I didn't have issues and problems with Hidden Colors. And I talked about this before. But because he had some clear pseudos, but he had some clear, authentic scholars. So I appreciated the perspectives that were provided by the clear scholars. I just closed my ears to the clear pseudos, but that's me. I know other brothers that was like, as soon as they see one pseudo, they gone take the, like, you know, it came out when you still when you were still buying DVDs. Take DVD out. I ain't got nothing to do with it. That's up to you. But again, I say I was a fan of Tariq Nasheed. I followed him on social media. I thought he was an interesting individual. I thought he was a thought leader. I thought he was a leader. I thought he was doing good work. And when he did his pivot into complete, total anti-Black, anti-African rhetoric and projects, I said, well, here is where I leave you. Now, again, anybody that gets caught, if you get caught up in the zeitgeist and you can't think for yourself, the world is going to have its way with you, whether it be Tariq Nasheed or someone else. And nobody can stop that. No, only you can prevent forest fires. All we can do when we come online for podcasts or YouTube streams, or we jump on Facebook or TikTok, we can speak our truth. You can fight facts. You can fight falsehood with facts. And it is up for other viewers and listeners, the audience, to take from it what they will. If people listen to facts like Joy Reid ain't American and they don't check it, nobody's ever going to convince them that Joy Reid is an American because they don't want the truth. So Kaleem Shabazz says we need to form a plan and stick to it until we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps like Booker T. Washington. This is true. We have to do it. We have to do it in small clusters. We have to do it in small groups. Wherever you be. If y'all wanted to put it in the chat, tell me where you're listening from. Because if you're close, then you can create some offline groups that do some work to help benefit the community. But if I'm here in Virginia and my other brother's in Detroit and another brother is in England and another brother's in California, we do what we do, how we do, when we can. Mr. K, when Hidden Color 6 comes out, it will be full of pseudos with no authentics and full of AI. I don't doubt it. I will say, I got a feeling. We'll have to see, because, for instance, I do know he is still, I got to choose my words correctly. I know he went online and had his little hissy fit over Professor James Smalls basically telling the world he not with that FBA mess. And so he had his own little hissy fit talking about, I'm gonna take him off the wall. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Y'all see this drink? You can't see it that well. Never mind. But it remains to be seen whether or not he's going to be included in the next DVD. If he's not, I'm not surprised. If he is, I'm not surprised. Just don't know. But I will say this, without authentic scholars, without verified scholars, without recognized scholars who've done real work, and I don't just mean like legacy scholars because they've been in the community for a long time, because we got scholars everywhere. It's one of the things that this is one of the things that I don't like. Like people will say, well, who was that? And where you been? And you ain't been around. There's scholars doing work every day. Like if a brother got his PhD and he's teaching at a college, in a city that you don't live in. If a sister got her PhD and she's teaching in a college in a city that you don't live in, she's still doing that work. He's still doing that work. So we got scholars all up and down everywhere, wherever we live. Whether we have access to them is another thing altogether. But it remains to be seen. I won't be surprised if it's full of AI and it ain't got no bona fide scholars in it. But I won't be surprised if he does pull off a Hail Mary and get some true scholars. Khalim Shabazz, small groups is good. Now you talking, G. Appreciate that. Mr. K, Tariq announced that he's removed James Smalls to replace by a pseudo name Afro Elite. I love the receipts. I'm here for the receipts. I love the receipts. I can have some hope, but because I don't follow him, I don't know. So this will be interesting. Now I may have to go and Google Afro Elite, if certain people still give me permission to use Google. I don't know. Maybe Trump has told Google don't say no truth about that either. But I ain't never heard of Afro Elite. But like I just said, just because I ain't heard of it don't necessarily mean nothing. But I won't be surprised if I'm sadly mistaken. And another raccoon named Ant CEO. I think I did hear about that one before. So Troy Body says, you refuse to accept that Black immigrants were paid to talk against Black interests. How often are you saying these Black podcasters talking about Cop City? Let's just start there. Okay, well, let's just start there. I ain't talked about Cop City, so I guess that makes me a Black immigrant. Or does that make me a tether? So I refuse to accept that Black immigrants were paid to talk against Black interests. Do you have the name of one? Again, you like to say stuff. You don't like to prove stuff. You like to talk-ish. You don't like to back it up. Who are the Black immigrants that were paid to talk against the Black interest? And what are the specific Black interests that they were paid to talk about? Now, as I said, I don't talk about Cop City. Does that make me a Black immigrant? So let me see. Khalim Shabazz, if we don't network, this becomes entertainment rather than political change, vision plus commitment plus. All right, so we got to get that in there. Q Black, peace fam. Shout out for coming through. Had Troy Bodies, have you any scholars talked about Cop City? Like I said, I'm not sitting up here saying I am the master of knowledge of all things. So I said I haven't talked about Cop City. I'm not necessarily. I vaguely remember a couple of conversations a few years ago about Cop City, but then it sort of, went to the wayside. I'm not sure. I have to go and look it up. What is Cop City? Can I trust Google on this one? So Cop City is the white. Let me see if I can bring that to the screen. Cop City is the widely used name for the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. Okay, that's ringing a bell. A large, controversial police and firefighting training facility being built in South River Forest in Atlanta, Georgia, featuring a mock city for urban tactical training. Proponents see it as vital for modernizing training, focusing on de-escalation, while opponents, including environmentalists and community activists, view it as militarizing police, harming the environment, and threatening nearby Black communities, leading to years of protests. Now, right off top, maybe I need to do I need to do a new show? Do I need to go back and do my research and do a new show on Cop City? And if so, I ain't got a problem with that. I'll look into it. Right off top, I'm a side with the opponents. It don't sound like anything good. Key aspects of Cop City to provide advance. I don't even think I need it. I like the opponent's concerns. Destruction of green space in vital forests. Militarization, normalizing aggressive tactics and equipment. Community impact, increased policing. I'm dead set against all of that. So now let's do this. Are Black immigrants again supporting Cop City? Let's see. Let me see if I can get that on the screen, and we're gonna see what Google says. Based on surveys and reports, Black residents in Atlanta are not uniformly in support of the Cop City training facility, but rather are roughly evenly split on the issue. Diverse perspectives. While some Black Atlanta residents and leaders support the project, often citing a need for better police training and safety improvements, many others strongly oppose it, viewing it as an increase in police militarization and a threat to Black working class communities. Now, I still don't see anything about immigrants. As of March 2023, Emory University survey found that approximately 47% of Black respondents opposed the facility, while just under 44% supported it. In summary, there is no monolithic Black immigrant or broader Black community stance supporting the project. Rather, opinions are polarized, with significant portions of the Black community actively opposing it. Okay, so now, I'm not the type to say I stopped at Google. I'm not the type to say I stopped at Google. But, this is what you call good faith investigation. Joy Body keeps saying, but you haven't done it, and you're ignoring, and you're dancing around. Now, I just pulled up what Cop City is. Taught myself a thing or two. Like I said, it sounded vaguely familiar, but I wasn't going to sit there and say I know all there is to know about it. But yeah, reading that refreshes my memory. And I believe that there was an incident in Atlanta when it was like 2 or 3 Black American cops that beat up or assaulted another Black American. And that stuff kind of jumped off, and there was some conversation about Cop City. But whether I'm right or wrong about that, so Troy keeps saying, I'm not talking about Cop City, and Troy keeps saying the Black immigrants are against it or are in support of it. Well, Google said, we ain't got no evidence of that. Okay, now again, in perfect move the goalpost form, now Troy Body wants to talk about the Bible. Well, bruh, let me tell you something right here. Well, let me read this statement first. Troy Body 6662 says, in case you haven't read the Bible, you are your parents, bro. This is what I'm talking about. Gaslighting. Now, maybe you're talking to somebody else. You asked me to pull up Cop City. You asked me to look into Black immigrants supporting Cop City. Google says, what did they say? Well, the Google result says that is a lie. And now you've moved the goalpost to whether or not the Bible is true. Quite frankly, the Bible is false. I don't believe in the Bible at all. So anything that you want to say, the Bible says you are your parents. I don't care what the Bible says. But let me ask you this, because even if I did care what the Bible says, how is this gaslighting? I literally pulled up the specific thing you asked me to do. It literally shows that you are dead wrong and or lying. And now all of a sudden, the Bible enters the chat. So again, Troy Body likes to just throw out bogus BS. So is there anybody else in the chat that has anything worth putting on the screen? Because if not, then I'm going to get ready to bid you guys farewell. I say Haiti was enslaved by the French and Jamaicans were enslaved by the British. Joy Body says we got two groups of white people, Republican and Democrats. Do they work together to keep Africa underneath its control? Yes, they work together with all the other white nations. It's called pan-Europeanism. And the only solution to pan-Europeanism is pan-Africanism. Well, I would tell you now, Troy Body. Now, again, I share your concern. I think this is. I wish you would just stay focused on some political acumen that is rooted in logic. So I'm gonna agree with you to some extent. Until you can understand them, you'll never have unity. Oh no. I understand them. I disagree with them. I said before, I understand this delineation. But I understand that it is ridiculous. I understand that it is pointless, that it is fruitless. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Trump's gonna take them all. You can't stop people, you can't stop a crack addict from being a crack addict. You can show a crack addict, hey, I got a rehabilitation center right here. They ain't coming. You can't force them to come. Now, whether black people join Trump or not, whether black people join MAGA or not, Project 2025 was laid out and clearly said, we fully intend to bring back slavery. We fully intend to put folk back into the fields, whether they get black support or not. The Boogeyman 32 says the Bible was written by God, but the council took the books out. Yeah, I feel you, bro. So Troy Body says, I stand with you. We have to come up with a solution. It ain't enough to backbite somebody. It ain't enough to backbite somebody on your podcast. You have to try to reach out to the other side. There is no other way or we lose. Now, bro, okay, like I said, I love it when you talk seriously. Now, but again, you keep, what they call it? I think they call it sneak dissing. Like, ain't no backbiting over here, bro. Now, you keep shell gaming your concern. Ain't no backbiting over here. I'm trying to reach the other side with you by looking into your claims. I keep finding false narratives. All of the false narratives. Joy Reid ain't American, false. But I looked it up for you. And once I showed you, you're lying. Now, black immigrants support Cop City. I looked it up. It shows you're lying. Now, the Bible says you are what your father is. I don't care what the Bible says. So I'm reaching out to you. When are you going to reach out to me, bro? How about that? So, let me see. Tariq only reaches for the money in his bank account. Shout out to Mr. K for that insightful comment. The boogeyman. Good analogy. You can't make a crackhead go to the rehab. Thank you. Glad to see people is paying attention. So Troy Body says, you have to sit down with them. Well, like I said, FBA folks are welcome to sit down with me on this channel and have a conversation like you were doing. Now, I'm not going to entertain any conversations that are filled with lies and false narratives in any other way that I'm doing right now. I'm having a conversation with you. You're coming with false narratives. I'm debunking them. And we are still, I guess, because you do have a certain sense of maturity, we are still moving the dialogue further down the road towards a likeness of mindset, maybe. This is what, thank you, Gary said about Charlie Kirk. Now, okay, I don't know what thank you, Gary means or whatever, but OCK there, old Mr. I ain't got nothing. There was nothing positive that's gonna come out my mouth about that individual. And I already told you I disagree entirely with Gavin Newsom. I don't like Gavin Newsom. Man, I don't live in California. If I did, I probably wouldn't vote for him. Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak that definitively because again, if you only got two candidates, and I know we tired of hearing it, the best of two bad situations, the less evil. Yeah, I hate it too, but at the end of the day, it's real, it's true. None of the madness that is going on now. You know, if Kamala Harris would have been voted president, that brother that was shot by ICE agents would still be alive. That white woman that was shot by ICE agents would still be alive. Maduro would still be in his country running it. Joy Body says this way you pull the scales off of young people's eyes. So like I said, please like, share, and subscribe. Share this video, share this podcast with young FBA people who have an open mind and want to hear another side. Because if they stay in the Tariq Nasheed echo chamber, if they stay in the Yvette Carnell echo chamber, ain't nothing we can do. Because as the Boogeyman 32 says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. Now, Mr. K says, Afro Elite debated Pan-Africanist scholar Lumumba speaks. Afro Elite talk like Tariq. A zombie. So again, well, here, that's all I need to know. I haven't checked out Afro Elite. I probably won't unless I just want to do a debunk video. I don't know about Living Colors or Hidden Colors, okay? But I saw his movie on Haiti. I saw his movie on Haiti too. That was fantastic, and it made me feel proud of Haitians. Me too. And imagine my surprise when, after he got all of the accolades for Haiti, for the documentary, he turned around and started crapping on Haiti. So, again, like I said, I started off as a fan and a supporter of Tariq Nasheed. I have positive things to say about Hidden Colors. I have positive things to say about the Haiti documentary. But I call a spade a spade. I can give you, I think it was Betty Shabazz that said, find the good and give out and let go of the rest. And I think another way to say it is to chew the meat and spit out the bones. If you do something that is of value and worthy of thumbs up, I will give you the thumbs up. If you do something that is of no value and worthy of thumbs down, that's exactly what you're going to get from me. I'm not that hardcore as to say never, always, 100%. But there are limits. And as long as you are doing and saying things that work in the detriment of Black people, Black unity, solidarity, Pan-Africanism, then I'm going to give you, I don't want to make that show on the screen the right way, the thumbs down. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Pan-African people all over the world, thank you for tuning in to The Proper Perspective. Now, as I start my podcast off with peace and positivity, I start my podcast off with Hotep to the Pan-African Black world. We look beyond the smoke and mirrors. We put puzzle pieces together so we can see the big picture. And the big picture is most all of the FBA talking points are dead on arrival. I encourage people to use Google. I encourage people to use AI to fact check the talking points that you see and hear from these people. 99.9% of the time, they lie. Mr. K says, I've seen better educational documentary films on the Haitian Revolution than 1804. Hey, Mr. K, no doubt. Send me one. Send me one, because I would like to do a compare and contrast. Here we go again. Not even gonna read it. I'm not now again. I'm not gonna read the bogusness again. Now, like I said, tonight's episode was basically to debunk at least the most fallacious talking points. Now, I still put out this invite. I still put out this challenge for FBA people who think that they have a leg to stand on, and they think that they can actually hold a conversation without profanity and disrespect. I'm here for it. You can send me an email. You can drop a comment on the video page. You can say something in the chat room. You give me a topic that you want me to look into. I may come back and do some more on Cop City. But again, if there is a problem with Cop City, you're not going to get to what the problem is when you start lying. The immigrants are supporting it and Black Americans aren't. And then Google says false. Well, why would I want to talk about Cop City? But you act as though talking about Cop City is important. If talking about Cop City is important, then start with the truth and then move forward. If you start with a lie, everything else that comes out your mouth is a shutdown. Nobody cares. The boy who cried wolf. FBAs have white supremacist talking points. That is all they have. They're literally just lifting the pages off the white supremacy talking point book and picking and choosing who gets to say this one. Now, Troy Body says, start forming groups within the Black church. If you go to church, you should be active in your church to form groups. Just have groups where you're just not talking about Jesus. We're talking about community and building the Black community. I agree with that. I'm not a churchgoer. If I was a churchgoer, I promise you, trust me there. If I was a churchgoer, I would be trying to get something organized at a church. I'm just not one of those. But I encourage anybody to do that. They can't defend their nonsense. The FBA people cannot defend their nonsense. When you start cooking them with facts, they're just going to call you a tether. I can't count how many times I've been called a tether. FBA is a program called 1, the sleeper effect, 2, the illusory truth effect. I recommend to do your search about 1, the sleeper effect, and 2, the illusory truth effect. Shout out to Beat Active 8075. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we've been rocking and rolling up here. We've been hip hopping up here for about 2 hours. This has been informative for me because, like I said, there's always things that I'm willing to learn. So I learned a little bit about Cop City. I learned a lot about false narratives, and I'm here for it some more. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I will be coming to you live again tomorrow, 6 p.m. What is that? I don't want to say East Coast time, 6 p.m. East Coast time. Let me see. If I were to I was gonna try to let you know what tomorrow's talk was about. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Drewski. We're going to be talking about Drewski tomorrow, punching up at pastors, roasting the black church. That's what we're going to be talking about. So it's a very interesting way for us to end tonight, since the brother sort of shifted into, hey, we need to go do something about church and the Bible and all of this. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you tune in. The Boogeyman says the best way to deal with the FBA is to continue to debunk their talking points and attempt to build with the like-minded individuals. Peace, brother. Peace to everybody. And yes, indeed, that Drewski skit was hilarious. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Drewski, but we're going to go deep. We're going to be talking about the real comedic intent of that Drewski skit, because it ain't just jokes. It ain't just for giggles. It's deeper than that. But ladies and gentlemen, this is your brother Shabazz, sometimes Professor Shabazz. This has been The Proper Perspective. I bid you all peace, and I will see you tomorrow night.